So hi everyone, my name is Asia Simpson. I'm the Injury Prevention Coordinator at UMass Memorial Healthcare. A lot of people are always curious what that means. My job is to focus on running community programs or programs with the patients in our hospitals to prevent the top injuries that come into our hospitals. And believe it or not, but falls are one of the top reasons people end up in the hospitals every year. And so we are running this series to offer education and support and resources to everyone that comes here, and hopefully we bring some new faces to the Worcester Senior Center. And today we have a wonderful presentation by students from the Mass College of Pharmacy Physical Therapy program. But before they get started, we're going to have Dr. Sarah McGee come up and do some opening remarks. She's the clinical chief of geriatric medicine at UMass Memorial. And then I'm sure most of you already know Dr. Hirsch. He's going to come on and talk a little bit too this morning with you. So thank you all for coming to our first program.
Thank you, Asia, and thanks for inviting me here. It's fabulous to see everyone, and this looks like a fabulous program over the next few weeks, all about falls. How am I projecting in the back there? Is that okay? Okay, good, thanks. Just a few comments. As Asia said, falls are a really common problem, very costly in terms of money and costly to the individual. Not only a cause of injury, but hospitalization, and not everybody recovers from injury related to a fall. So one of the things to remember, although there is a lot of misconceptions about falls, falls are not a normal part of aging. Okay, and over the course of the next few weeks, you'll hear more about that. There are some things that you cannot do about falls. Some of the risk factors would be something we call non-modifiable. There's nothing you can do about that. But there are things that you can do. There are risk factors for falls that are modifiable, and you're going to be hearing more about those, such as some medications may make you more likely to fall, weakness of your legs may make you likely to fall, in some environmental factors, some safety concerns in your environment at home or outside on the sidewalks, those are potentially modifiable. So there's definitely things that you can do. One of the biggest ones that you can work on is strength and conditioning, especially strength in your legs and working on balance. And you'll probably be hearing more about that this morning as well. And you'll be hearing more about medications, I'm sure, from what I can see. But the other thing I want you to take away is that it's very rare to have one cause of a fall. Okay? Falls are what we call multifactorial in terms of their cause, meaning there's many factors that come together that increase your risk of falls. So don't let anyone tell you, yes, this is the one reason why you've fallen and hurt yourself. There's typically multiple factors that come together that place you at higher risk for falls, okay? And the other factor that is within your control is something we call risk-taking behavior, okay? So sometimes it's the details about the activity that you're doing that place you at higher risk for falls. So I would argue, and I bet anyone in injury prevention would agree with me, that getting up on a step stool, on a ladder, standing on a chair, that is a risky behavior and should not be, older adults really should not be doing that. Now that's a generalization, but that would be good practice. That's not the only risky behaviors, getting up on a ladder, but more, activities that you had safely done when you were in the past, a little bit younger, or just in the past, may not be as safe as they used to be. So being cognizant of that and being careful, that is modifiable. So again, falls are not a normal part of aging. They're a significant cause of injuries and serious injuries, which is something we want to avoid. And there are things that you can do to prevent falls from happening. So enjoy the rest of today as well as the program in the next few weeks.
Thank you, Dr. McGee, and thank you, everybody, for attending today. You'll be hearing from the real experts on falls coming up from our Mass College of Pharmacy students that will be running this program. But I wanted to just give a tip of the hat to Asia Simpson for organizing this along with the leadership here at the Senior Center. You know, this Senior Center should really be called a preventive medicine center, because what I remember about 3 years ago were that we were using this as a staging area to teach our medical students at UMass how to give injections. And then in January of 2021, we started the first vaccination center right here. And so the leadership here at the Senior Center has been really cutting edge on anything they can do to keep you, their beloved patrons, healthy. And that's what the Department of Public Health is all about. So when I do my monthly shows on the city studio, and that comes out as the Stay Connected with Your Health, I've mentioned falls many times, and this is something that is really wonderful to know that we're doing something proactively to keep you all out of the hospital, to keep you from falling. I had a colleague in the trauma center a few years ago who tried to arrange a program based on the gun buyback program that I do every December. He wanted to have a ladder buyback program. He wanted to go to Lowe's or one of the big box stores that's, you know, does the home improvements and see if they would give us something if folks over a certain age brought in a ladder. And I think it's not a bad idea, but that gives you an idea of how common falls are. It's a really big part of the activity that we do at the Trauma Center, and we'd like to put ourselves out of business. So thank you all for participating, and thanks for letting us be here from the injury prevention program side, and I'm looking forward to seeing how successful we all are in keeping you guys upright and happy. Thanks. So here are the students from Mass College of Pharmacy.
All right, hello everyone. How are we doing? Good? Oh, I was worried you guys weren't gonna answer, so I really appreciate that. All right, so we're here to talk about falls and fall prevention, as you can see. My name is Courtney. We also have AJ, Rory, Diana, Rachel, Emily, Sienna, and Jim. So, nice introduction. There's a lot of us. All right, so what is a fall? A fall is just an event where you didn't mean to come down to a lower surface. This can be the ground, this can be a stair, this can be a chair, this can be a snow mound outside. It doesn't have to be super tall to super low. It just means that you didn't mean to come to a lower surface. And I think that we can all remember a time when this happened at any point in our life. This is not just an older adult problem. Everyone experiences a fall, okay? So age is just a number. When we hear falls, we associate this with an older adult. But if you think about it, falls happen all the time at any age. I know I've definitely fallen downstairs. I have younger siblings who fell over all the time when they were babies. So it is not just associated with the older adult, and I think that we can all agree that we know people at different stages of their life that are the same age but do very different things. So age is just a number, but there are changes that happen within our body that just come along with aging that are completely natural. So some of those changes include our neurological system. So our sensation, the way we feel things and the way that we perceive the world does change, and it's less sensitive as we age. Our vision usually gets better as we age, and then it starts to decline a little bit. So it might get harder to see. You might find that you need glasses. You might find that things look a little bit fuzzier. Our coordination, so the way that we're able to use our body within space, can also change. And then also our balance, which is what we were screening for when we were first here this morning. And then within our musculoskeletal system, so our muscles and our bones become less dense, so they become a little more brittle, a little more easy to break. Our muscles get smaller. And then we also have joints that are less mobile. They move a little bit less, they might creak, they might have a little bit of grinding. And then our postures change, so we might struggle to stand up tall like we used to be able to, or we just don't feel comfortable sitting in the same positions we used to. And then for our cardiopulmonary, so our heart and our lungs, our heart rate gets slower, but our blood pressure goes up. And then we can find that it's harder to breathe. Now, sometimes that's because it's harder for our lungs to just expand, or sometimes it's because our posture has changed and we're closed down, and so it's harder for us to get that full breath of air. But these are all completely normal changes that happen with aging that don't automatically mean that we're going to fall.
So here are some of the factors that may increase your risk of falls, such as visual impairments like Courtney just mentioned. We have visual changes. We may need glasses. It may be harder to see at night. A history of previous falls. So it's known that if you had a fall in the past, you are at a greater risk of falls in the future. However, this is preventable, which is why we're here today. So don't let that scare you. Decrease or diminish reflexes, meaning if somebody were to bump into you, it may take you a little bit longer, to take that step or catch your balance. Decrease muscle strength, like they had mentioned earlier. Maybe, you find that your legs aren't as strong enough and you're walking a little slower, or you feel that, you're not as strong as you were prior to your younger age, so that may also increase your risk of falls. A decreased posture, like Courtney just mentioned, if we find ourselves, kind of forward flex, our shoulders are a little hunched over, that may decrease our balance and we find ourselves a little more unsteady. A fear of falling, this one is extremely important because we were discussing this out back with some of you earlier. A fear of falling may increase your risk of falling, but that doesn't mean that you're going to fall. Confidence is key, is what I like to say. Having that confidence and having that ability to feel confident in your environment can play an important factor in your risk of falling. Any cognitive impairments, so if you feel like your memory hasn't been as great as it was, or if you can't really notice the step and you end up tripping over the step, that can take part in that. Medications is significantly important in this too. Side effects or taking multiple medications at a time. So that's what we call polypharmacy, or if you're taking more than 7 medications at a time. This is extremely important to discuss with your primary care physician or your pharmacist about what medications may increase your risk of fall. So anything that may cause dizziness or unsteadiness, that's definitely important to discuss with your doctor, and any sort of side effects that may increase your risk of falls. And then condition-specific factors such as diabetes or anything that comes with that comes with aging, so that may decrease the sensation in your feet is known with diabetes, so that may decrease your ability to be aware of what you're stepping on. And then these are some other factors that may increase your risk of falls. These are factors that you can control yourself, factors that you can be aware of to help you decrease your risk. So relying on furniture to move around, this is what we call couch cruising. So if you're walking around your house and you feel unsteady, so you grab onto the couch and you rely on furniture to move around your house, that may be a risk factor for you for falling. But again, you can talk with your doctors about maybe incorporating an assistive device such as a cane or something that may help you, so that way you're not relying on that furniture at home and then you go into the environment and you don't have anything to grab onto. Lighting. This is especially important in the dark or nighttime. With visual impairments comes difficulty seeing at night. So keeping on a light at night to help you see when you go to the bathroom or something like that can help decrease falls, especially at the night. Obstacles or clutter. I find if I have a bunch of stuff lying around in my house, I trip over it all the time. I'm not really good at that. But just being aware of anything that is on the floor or in the way of, your walkways to the bathroom, to the kitchen, can definitely play an important role. Same thing with flooring type or loose area rugs, especially like carpets that, you may put under your dining room table or something, that looks nice in the space. However, you can definitely trip on the lips of those, and those can impact your ability to safely walk around your home. And then any sort of like inappropriate or unsafe footwear, such as slip-on shoes, slippers, shoes with too much or too little grip, especially if you're getting on like an icy sidewalk, or again, like slippery floors, that may impact your ability to safely walk across those. And then an improperly adjusted assistive device, such as your cane or your walker, if you haven't had it adjusted by your doctor or like a physical therapist or something like that, if something's like too high or too low, that may also start causing that forward flex posture, or may not be at the right height for you to safely catch yourself if you were to fall. And then any sort of loose clothes, I'm also kind of bad with this, so I'm really short and my pants are always way too long on me. So just being mindful of anything that is too baggy, too long, that may cause you to trip or may cause a snag on a doorway or something. So these are definitely something to keep in mind, stuff that you can take control of to help decrease your risk.
So going a little further into medication influence, I know AJ touched on it. Typically, we think of polypharmacy as taking 5 or more medications, and all in all, we know that medications generally make a positive difference in many people's lives, but it's just the interactions of those medications that we want to kind of keep track of. So a lot of positive effects could be keeping the blood sugar at safe levels, heart beating rhythmically at the right time, and keeping your moods in check. With multiple medications come different side effects, and this is really where the balance and falling comes into play. So we want to look out for dizziness, drowsiness, fainting, those types of symptoms that you might be feeling if you're taking more than 5 medications, or even if it's a few interacting, you're not feeling yourself, you really want to check in with your doctor. So these combinations come with increased risks. And there's many groups of medications that you may or may not be taking that are likely to cause these balance problems. So these can include antidepressants, anti-seizure medication, hypertensive drugs, so high blood pressure, sedatives, diuretics, and sleep aids. 2 of these are very, very important. Just like with the lighting in your home when you're getting up, if you're taking some of these medications, you might need to get up more frequently in the night to go to the bathroom. You really want to make sure that that lighting is in check, because if you're taking these, you want to make sure that your environment is good for you and safe for you to get around.
All right, so in physical therapy, there are a lot of different factors that we can assess for fall risk. So the first one we're going to look at is balance, and we can define balance as the ability to distribute our weight in order to remain upright and steady. So as many of you that participated in the back, we worked a lot on balance, so our balance system can be broken up into 3 different subsystems. So first we have our visual system, which we've touched on a little bit. So this allows us to see our surroundings and navigate our environment. However, if there is damage or we have impairments in this visual system, we can have an impacted ability to judge both distance and depth, which can increase our risk for falling. Another one we may not have heard of is our vestibular system. So what I want you to think about is we have fluid in our inner ear, and when our body moves, this fluid also moves, and this sends signals to the body to detect movement in space and sends these signals to the brain. So damage to this system can result in symptoms such as dizziness and vertigo, which is a sense of spinning. And finally, we also have our somatosensory system. So we have nerves in our body that are called proprioceptors, and these tell our brain about changes in certain conditions in our environment. So when our muscles and tendons become weak or age, it is less likely that we can avoid falls because these proprioceptors are unable to function properly.
So along with balance, we also looked at gait. I don't know if any of you guys saw, but we did a walking test. We call it the 10-meter walk test. And gait is just a fancy way of saying like how you walk, the way you're walking. So we're looking at how much your hips are moving, how much your trunk is leaning forward, whether or not it's upright. We're looking at if your knee is bending enough, how long those steps are. So all those little details play a role in the way that you're walking and the risk that you are for falls. So we like to look at the way you walk because it looks at several different body systems, and I know AJ already touched upon that. So we're looking at the musculoskeletal system, your cardiovascular endurance, the neuromuscular system, so your sensation. All of that we can look at looking through gait. So like I said, the length of your steps, that's the quality of the movements that you're doing. And everyone walked in here, so it is important to everyone here. But along with quality is also the quantity. And specifically in that test that we did in the back today, we were looking at your gait speed. So how fast you were able to walk at a comfortable pace. And this chart down here over on the right is something that we like to use just to associate a daily activity or a health concern that's associated with how fast you're walking. One that really stands out to us specifically in PT is community ambulator. So that's moving at anywhere above 0.8 meters per second. And to give you an idea, about 1.2 meters per second is 4 feet a second. So a community ambulator is being able to go out in your community and participate. So not worrying about falling, being able to walk on those uneven surfaces, not just on flat ground. And then another one too, I mentioned 1.22 meters per second, so 4 feet per second. We're looking at crossing streets safely. So that's typically the amount of time that you get to cross the street. So that is pretty significant when we are looking at your gait and how fast you're able to walk.
All right, so we also touched upon this a little bit as well, but balance confidence is an extremely important factor that really helps us determine your risk of falls. This was also something that we did in the back when some of you first came in. We asked you to fill out a questionnaire, and that just kind of tells us how confident you think you are in different activities. And this confidence tends in research is shown to have a direct correlation with fall risk. So the more confident that you are in your own balance, the less likely it is that you are going to fall. In order to reclaim a sense of confidence in your ability to balance, there's several different domains that you can work on your own in your own time, as well as with a personal trainer or a physical therapist. Recovering from perturbations is a big one. A perturbation is when you are nudged by an external force. So if you're walking in a large crowd of people, somebody bangs into you, or even walking around your own home, if you forget where you left the chair in the dining room and you accidentally run into it, your ability to recover from those external forces is extremely important, because when you're navigating crowds, you never know what's going to happen in the environment. Navigating around obstacles as well. When you're in your home and you leave something out, your ability to not only see this obstacle, but move around it, whether that's something high you have to step over like a step, or something small you might not see on the ground that could impede your balance. Traversing on uneven terrain is also something important to work on. Whether it be like an icy sidewalk that may impede your balance, or just a change from walking on a solid surface like concrete and moving onto grass, all of that can affect your sensation as well as your vestibular input. So all of that can impact your balance as well. So practicing on walking on grass as opposed to concrete can also help you increase your ability to walk on uneven terrain. Reaching outside of your base of support. Throughout the day, we're always reaching for things that may not be within our grasp. We talked about walking up ladders and on step stools and how that can really challenge our balance. Increasing your own confidence and reaching outside of your base of support on steady ground and challenging yourself with these things can increase your confidence to complete these activities in daily life without worrying about falling. Safely moving through crowds, this goes back to perturbations. Moving through crowds is not only challenging because of the risk of an external force, impeding your balance, but also because there's a lot going on in front of you, whether that be loud noises, a lot of visual changes going on in front of you, all of which can distract you from focusing on your balance and really challenge your balance. So engaging in crowds like that in a safe environment and gradually exposing yourself to moving around in these environments can help increase your confidence as well. Maintaining upright postures and challenging positions. So a lot of times we can find ourselves stooping over and leaning forwards, as we were talking about earlier. Really challenging yourself to maintain an upright posture even when your balance is being challenged is extremely important. We like to say, like, keep the top of your head up to the sky. Dual tasking is also important. How many times throughout the day are you walking around with something else on your mind or carrying a glass of water in your hand? These are all cognitive challenges that we don't tend to think about when we balance. And it kind of takes your focus away from the task at hand, which is staying upright and walking. So challenging yourself by, let's see how long I can walk with this glass of water full and not spill it. That can be a good challenge to challenge yourself to become more confident in your ability to not only walk and balance at the same time, but while also having a conversation, carrying in the groceries, things like that. And then lastly, decreasing fear avoidance behaviors. If we don't expose ourselves to challenges that might scare us, we tend to lose our ability to adapt. And if you want to stay active and mobile longer, you have to go out and you have to challenge yourself in complex situations that might be scary, but the gradual exposure can really help increase your confidence and decrease your risk of falls.
Okay, so there are a lot of different outcome measures that can be used to measure someone's balance and dynamic standing or while they're walking. These are just a couple of the ones that we did earlier with some of you guys when we came in earlier. So starting over there with the 4-stage balance test, this is really just looking at our standing balance. There's 4 different positions that revolve around the feet. The first just being having a narrow base of support, so just keeping those feet close together. And then it moves on, progressing just different stances. The most important of which is the third one, our tandem stance, meaning that you're heel to toe. And we're really looking kind of to see if someone can stand like in that position for 10 seconds. That's a cutoff point for us that we look at which means that you are indicative of a fall risk. Another test that we did was that 10-meter walk test, which we've already kind of touched upon. But normally we do that in a self-selected velocity, meaning whatever pace you're normally comfortable walking. And then we also do it at a faster pace, whatever pace you think you can do it the fastest. And we take an average of those and we look at kind of that chart that we talked about a few minutes ago. And that has a lot of different cutoff scores and a lot of different places that we can look to kind of see where your gait speed lines up and what that means for you in particularly. The really important one that we're looking at is that meter per second, because that is our cutoff score for kind of independent ADLs and being indicative of a fall risk. And then our ABC scale, it divides each group into 3 different parts. 80% meaning that you're a very high functioning individual. 50 to 80 is that moderate level, and 50% is a lower level of functioning. 67% is our cutoff point in particular for being indicative of a fall risk. And these aren't the only measures that can be conducted. If you are in a physical therapy center or in another doctor's office, there are other tests and measures that can be done, but these are some really quick and simple ones that we could do very effectively while we were here. So what can you do to kind of improve your balance as we're trying to work through these things? So there's a couple of different ways that we can use. The really simplest one is really just trying to stay physically active, get in some exercise, whether that just be walking around, getting around the house, doing a couple of sit-to-stands, getting out of your chair, kind of practicing those different things. Because all of these things, as we've said, if you don't use it, you lose it. That's kind of like a really big motto for physical therapists, and that's true across all ages. If you're not being physically active or you're not practicing a skill, you're going to have detriments to that skill over time because you're not using it. There's a lot of really good programs and different exercises that can be performed, such as Tai Chi, yoga, Pilates, or the Otago exercise programs. These are all really, really good ways that you can help practice and do different ways to try and help reduce your risk of falling and increase your overall balance. Other things that we can do is limiting those risk factors that we were talking about. getting up onto a high ladder, walking on ice, especially here in New England, is a very big one. Trying to make sure you have your walkways iced or you're using proper footwear. These are all really important ways that we can kind of use and just ways to try and reduce our overall risk while we're trying to walk through these different environments or do different things like that. And then just regularly practicing those balance activities and the different things that you can do are always going to be very helpful in trying to reduce our overall risk of falling and just overall help our balance in different situations. Because like I said, if you don't use it, you'll lose it. And that's really one of the main things that if you're not practicing and you're not trying to stay physically active, it's slowly but surely you're going to lose a lot of those skills and you're going to have a decrease in a lot of these things. But there are ways that we can practice, which my friend Jim will go over.
If you don't use it, you lose it. Is it okay if I step back away from the podium, everybody? Awesome. I'm going to come over here. I'm not very tall. Can everybody see me? So we've been kind of telling you why and when and the reasons for falling, but Rory and myself wanted to talk to everybody about some things you can do about that. And I'm not a doctor. I do play one on TV, but I want to remind everybody that I am going to tell you some things that you could do at home, but make sure you check with your doctor, check with a licensed physical therapist. Everybody is very different. We are all different, and there's different things that we're able to do at different times. Rory had touched on the Otago exercise program. This program is something that was created in New Zealand. It's a protocol that was created that showed a 35% reduction in falls. It's really impressive, and the things that you do are functional movements that you do every day. And they just turned it into an exercise program. If you can't tell already, I love being up here. I love talking to everybody. I love to have somebody come up here with me. If there's anybody interested, I really want to go over a couple of these exercises in a chair with me up here in the front. Would anybody be willing to do that? Awesome. I placed him right here. How are you? What's your name?
Joe.
Hey, Joe. I'm Jim. All right, Joe. I'm going to have you sit right here. So, Joe, these exercises that I have on the screen behind, and I'm going to talk you through a few of them. There's actually about 14 of these exercises. I picked out 6 that I felt were the safest and the easiest for you to do at home. And the reason I said safest was because these exercises I feel like you could do safely on your own. I would recommend having a partner or someone there with you, but if you don't, I'm going to show you how to be able to do these on your own. And again, it is worth saying, don't do this unless you've kind of got an okay from a doctor. So Joe, the first thing I'm going to have you do is we're just going to be sitting in our chair. We always want to make sure we have good posture. We're sitting nice and upright. And we're just going to be taking our leg, and we're just going to be extending our knee out as far as we're able to do. There is no right or wrong answer. It's okay if you can't go as higher as somebody else. Do you want to try the other knee? Okay, we'll do that one. All right, we're going to hold them out. That's great. And you are going to want to switch. And we're going to do some of those. You know, this isn't the official exercise program, so don't worry about repetitions and how many you're going to do. It's just if you're willing to do it is really what matters. Another thing that we want to do is some toe raises. So, Joe, before I do that, since we're sitting, we want to be efficient. So I'm going to have you do some sit-to-stands, and Rory had touched on that. So what we're going to do is we're going to sit up nice and tall. If you need to hold the armrest here, you can. And we're just going to be standing up nice and tall. We're going to reach back down, and we're going to sit back down. Joe does that fantastically, but if somebody else needs to hold the armrest, that's okay. Again, like I said, there's no right or wrong way to do it. The next thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to stand up, Joe, and we're going to hold on to a surface so we can kind of stand up to a table, and we're just going to be doing toe raises. So those are calf raises. We're going to get to those. You got to slow down. We're going to do toe raises. So we're doing the opposite of that. We're just going to be lifting our toes off the ground and putting them back down. And we'll do a few of those. I have to punish you now because you weren't doing it in the order I wanted to. All right. And now we're going to, oh, are you? We're going to do some calf raises now. So we'll do what you were doing before, going up and down. Good. All right. And then now what we're going to do is we're going to do some sidestepping. Now, if you have a raised wall, or if you have a long table at home, I'd recommend doing it like that so you can kind of have something to hold on to. If you don't, we can use a wall. We're physical therapists. We think on our feet. We really can use anything in our environment. So we're just going to be sidestepping to the side so you can step towards me. And like I said, if you need to hold on to a surface, you can do that. And we'll step back that way. You're getting a little close to me. Okay. All right. And the last thing that we're going to be doing, and like I said, there's about 14. On some of your tables, there should be these exercises. If you don't, you can just search for it on the internet or have somebody help you. And you're just going to search for Otago exercise program. And it's very accessible and it's free, and you can find all of these things. The last thing we're going to do, Joe, I'm going to move this chair for you right here. Okay. I'm going to put this one right here. And all we're going to be doing is standing to the side of the chair. Why don't you face this way so they don't have to look behind you? And we're going to stand up nice and tall, and we're just going to be lifting our right leg off to the side. Just like that. Great. And then we can bring it back down. And we'll do a couple of those. And then we can switch the chair. I'm not going to turn around so nobody has to look at us from behind, but we can do that with our other leg as well. So there are things that we can all do at home safely. And this, again, it's worth mentioning again, this showed a 35% reduction in falls. It's a really amazing study. And Rory had mentioned Tai Chi. There's some other things as well. But I hope you like that. This is something that everybody can do at home. And after the fun stuff, I want to talk to you about if you do have a fall, this is how you're going to recover from it. And it is very important to know there is a way that has been shown to be very helpful. The first thing you want to do is if you're down on the ground and you have fallen, the first thing you do is you want to check yourself. Make sure you haven't broken anything. Make sure that you're kind of aware of what's around you. And you want to look around to make sure that there's something sturdy you can get to. From there, you want to roll onto your side. Do your best. Like I said, really make sure that you find something that you're able to go onto, and you want to slowly lift your head up. When you lift your head up, you want to be pushing your body up. See if you're able to crawl to that thing that you find. If it's a chair, if that chair is in the middle of the room, we want to push the chair to a wall, something that is going to be behind it to help you get up. When you want to sit up, you're going to take your stronger leg. We all have a stronger leg. Mine's my right leg. I'm going to put my right leg forward, and I'm going to push up through that leg. We want to use the chair as much as we can. And again, the most important thing is having that chair or something up against the wall. And that's really the best way to do that if you do have a fall.
All right, so in summary, we've said it before, and I'm going to say it again, age does not define fall risk. The factors that decrease fall risk include maintaining a physically active lifestyle, challenging yourself physically, managing your chronic conditions, whether that be with medications or with physical activity or using something like glasses or hearing aids when you need them. Proper medication management, we've touched upon polypharmacy quite a bit, but making sure that you talk to your doctors regularly and your pharmacist as well when you have any medication changes. Correct use of assistive devices is extremely important. Assessing and addressing modifiable risk factors. A lot of these things are things that you can start right now, whether that be getting into a physical strengthening program, a balance program, talking to your doctor about medication changes, and then doing those Otago exercises at home as well can all help prevent fall risk or decrease fall risk. Ensuring that you get adequate sleep at night, wearing proper footwear around the house, and then lastly, just increasing balance confidence. A lot of these things are things that you can start out small and gradually increase to, and all of these things can all decrease your risk of fall and increase your balance and hopefully allow you to be functional a lot longer.
All right, can we have a big round of applause for the physical therapy students? They did a great job today. And they don't know this, but they're going to wait out in the back of the room. If anyone has any more questions, we got to move on with our day. So if anyone has any specific questions, you can go talk with them in the back of the room before they head out for the day. And before I end, I just wanted everyone to take a quick look on your tables. If you don't have one of these, make sure you leave with one today. It has a list of all the different sessions we have for the total 9-week series. I'm briefly just going to talk about them right now. We have a nurse practitioner from the trauma bay next week talking about what happens to our bodies as we age, and she's going to talk about how do we age gracefully. We're going to have more Mass College of Pharmacy students coming in 2 weeks, and they're going to talk about medication management. We have a licensed clinical social worker talking about mental health and staying connected. We have Justine Cody from the Brain Injury Association coming to talk about brain injuries after a fall. We have Katie Harrington from the Worcester Fire Department coming and talking about fire safety in May. We have the fraud players that they're here. They have their offices upstairs, and they're going to talk about how to avoid scams and fraud. I know that's not exactly fall prevention related, but we snuck in some other good topics for this series too. We have one of my colleagues who I work really closely with, Jill Terry, and she is a professor at the nursing program at UMass Memorial, and she's going to talk about what your ears, eyes, and feet have to do with falling. And then on our last day on June 6th, we have the resource panel to talk about all the different community resources that are available to you in Worcester. And every week we have lunch, we have great entertainment to happen during lunch, so we hope you'll come back. And thank you again. One more round of applause for the students.